People who had to sign an NDA, what didn't they want you to tell? I was 26 when I signed the NDA that would change my life. After years living paycheck to paycheck, one email from my ex-boyfriend's father changed everything. My son is getting married. We need to discuss some matters, confidentially. Paul's family was old money, the kind with buildings named after them and private jets that never appeared on flight trackers. We'd dated for 3 years during college before he abruptly ended things. No explanation, just a hollow, "I can't do this anymore," and silence. 2 days after the email, I sat across from Howard Green in a private room at a downtown law firm. His suit probably cost more than my yearly rent. "Catherine," he said, sliding a document across the mahogany table. "This is a non-disclosure agreement. Sign it, and I'll explain why you're here." I hesitated. "I should have a lawyer review this." Howard smiled without warmth. "The NDA is just to discuss the proposal. You'll have proper legal representation before anything is finalized." Against my better judgment, I signed. Howard leaned forward. "My son is marrying the Watkins girl next month. Her family's shipping empire and our tech holdings will create one of the largest private conglomerates in the country." He paused. "The marriage, is contingent on Paul's spotless reputation." My stomach tightened. "What does this have to do with me?" "The incident during your relationship, the hospital visit, the photographs." My blood went cold. The night I thought no one knew about. The night Paul had shown me who he really was. $3 million, Howard said, "for your permanent silence and the destruction of any evidence, plus the return of certain items in your possession." I stared at him, processing the amount. Enough to pay off my student loans, buy a house, start over. "And if I refuse?" Howard's expression hardened. "We'll deny everything. Our legal team will bury you in litigation until you're bankrupt. Your career will be collateral damage." I felt sick. The memory of that night flashed through my mind. The bruises, the terror, the hospital staff who didn't believe me when I said my boyfriend, the beloved son of Howard Green, had done this. "Can I think about it?" 24 hours. Howard stood up. "Remember, you signed an NDA just by being in this room. Speak to anyone, and the consequences will be severe." What Howard didn't know was that I wasn't the same scared girl from 3 years ago. I'd been preparing for this moment, gathering evidence, building connections. The digital trail Paul thought he'd erased still existed. The nurse who treated me had kept unofficial records. And the Watkins girl? She deserved to know who she was really marrying. I had 24 hours to make my decision. $3 million for my silence, or the chance to finally expose the monster behind the golden boy facade. Outside the law firm, I gulped the crisp fall air, trying to steady my racing heart. A sleek black car idled at the curb, Howard's driver, no doubt, making sure I left the premises. I walked quickly, feeling the driver's eyes on my back, past 3 blocks of high-rises before ducking into a coffee shop. My hands trembled as I ordered a latte I couldn't taste. $3 million. Life-changing money. All I had to do was forget that night. Forget how Paul's charming smile had twisted into something unrecognizable as his hands closed around my throat. Forget how the emergency room doctor had glanced at my Walmart jeans and then at Paul's surname on my intake form, his skepticism palpable. "Are you sure you didn't just fall?" the doctor had asked, even as the nurse photographed finger-shaped bruises on my neck. That nurse, Diane, had slipped me her personal number. "Call me if you ever need anything," she'd whispered while Paul paced in the hallway, already crafting our story. I've seen this before. I never called her. 2 days later, Paul ended things. A week after that, his father's attorney delivered a goodwill check for $25,000 and a preliminary NDA. I'd torn up both. Now I was wondering if that had been naive. At a corner table, I pulled out my phone and texted Mia, my roommate. "Need to talk. Emergency. Are you home?" 3 dots appeared, then, "Yes, everything okay?" I didn't answer. Couldn't. Not until I was somewhere safe. The coffee shop had a back exit. I slipped out, paranoid about surveillance. Howard Green hadn't built his tech empire without mastering the art of information gathering. 30 minutes and 3 unnecessary transfers later, I unlocked our apartment door. Mia looked up from her laptop, her expression shifting from annoyed to concerned when she saw my face. "What happened?" I opened my mouth but hesitated. "The NDA." Mia stood up. "Kat, you're scaring me. I signed something today," I managed. "I can't tell you about it." "Bullshit." Mia grabbed my shoulders. "We don't do secrets, remember? Not after everything." Mia knew most of the Paul story. She'd been the one who held me when I woke up screaming those first few months. But she didn't know everything. No one did. Except Paul. And now, apparently, his father. "I need to go somewhere," I said finally. "Somewhere to think. I only came back for something." I moved to my bedroom and locked the door, ignoring Mia's protests. Under a loose floorboard beneath my bed was a small fireproof box. Inside, a USB drive, a hospital bracelet, and several Polaroid photos. Insurance, I'd called it. Evidence in case he ever came after me again. Now it was leverage worth $3 million, or a weapon to destroy a dynasty. My phone pinged with a text from an unknown number. "Ms. Winters, as a follow-up to our meeting, I've taken the liberty of transferring a good faith deposit of $100,000 to your account. The remainder upon signing the final agreement tomorrow. HG." I checked my banking app. The money was there, pending. Howard hadn't mentioned a deposit. This was a tactic. Get me to spend some of it, implicate myself, make it harder to walk away. I transferred it immediately to my savings account. Untouched, but safe. When I emerged from my room, Mia was pacing. I'm staying at Jen's tonight, I told her, the lie bitter on my tongue. Work stuff. Don't worry. At least tell me if you're in trouble, she pleaded. I forced a smile. No trouble. Just a decision to make. Outside, I hailed a taxi. Brighton Memorial Hospital, I told the driver. It was time to find Diane. Brighton Memorial's emergency department hadn't changed. Same harsh fluorescent lights, same antiseptic smell that couldn't quite mask human suffering. I approached the nurse's station, scanning faces. I'm looking for Diane. She was an ER nurse here about 3 years ago. The older nurse didn't look up from her computer. Last name? I froze. I'd never known Diane's last name. Catherine? I turned to find Diane herself, older but unmistakable with her silver-streaked dark hair. Her eyes widened in recognition. It's you, she said quietly. Paul Green's girlfriend. Ex, I corrected automatically. Diane glanced at the nurse's station, then guided me to a quieter corner. Break room's empty. 5 minutes. The staff break room was small and cluttered with half-empty coffee mugs and abandoned lunch containers. Diane locked the door behind us. I wondered if you'd ever reach out, she said. I hoped you wouldn't need to. I struggled to find the right words. I signed an NDA today. Understanding crossed her face. Ah, the green machine is in motion. You know about them? Diane laughed without humor. Honey, I've worked here 20 years. The Greens practically own this hospital's west wing. Their donation built it. She lowered her voice. You're not the first girl I've seen come through these doors after spending time with that family. My heart stopped. What? Paul's father was just like him. And his grandfather too, from what I've heard. She crossed her arms. I've kept records. Unofficial, of course. The hospital would fire me if they knew. That's what I came to ask about, I said. The photographs, your notes from that night, do they still exist? Diane studied my face for a long moment before answering. Yes, I need them. For what? Money? There was judgment in her tone. I don't know yet, I admitted. They're offering $3 million for my silence. Diane whistled. That's new. They must be desperate. She hesitated. What happened that night was wrong. Not just what he did to you, but how this place treated you afterward. The records getting lost, the doctor dismissing your injuries. She looked away. I kept copies because someday I thought someone might be brave enough to stop them, or greedy enough to take their money, I said bitterly. Diane touched my arm. You didn't come here looking for permission to take the money. If you wanted that, you wouldn't be here at all. She was right. I'd been fighting with myself since leaving Howard's office, but some part of me had already decided. I just needed to be sure I wasn't alone. There's more, I said. Other girls? Diane nodded slowly. 3 that I know of, before and after you. One was the daughter of another powerful family. That got hushed up immediately. The other 2? She shook her head. Working class. Like you. Easy to discredit. Do you have their names? I can't give you that information. Professional responsibility flickered across her face. But I have documentation. Redacted, but clear enough. Could you testify? If it came to that? Diane's expression hardened. I've got 3 kids in college and a mother in assisted living. The Greens would destroy me. She paused. But sometimes doing the right thing costs everything. My phone vibrated. A text from Howard. Checking in on your decision process. The offer expires in 18 hours. I looked up at Diane. I need to see everything you have. Diane's evidence was more damning than I'd imagined. Not just my case, which included photos of bruises Howard had somehow obtained copies of, but the pattern. 4 women over 7 years, each with the same injuries. Each case mysteriously minimized or made to disappear from official records. The most recent was from just 8 months ago. A woman named Melissa, whose last name had been redacted. Her injuries had been the worst, a broken wrist and orbital fracture. The photographs made me physically ill. 8 months, I whispered. He was already engaged to the Watkins girl. Diane nodded grimly. From what I overheard, she was a server at their country club. They paid her family $500,000. She moved away. I stared at the stack of evidence. Printouts, photographs, Diane's meticulous notes, spread across her kitchen table. We'd relocated to her modest home in the suburbs, her kids away at school, her mother asleep in the back bedroom. I can make copies, Diane offered, but the originals stay with me. They're my insurance. Against what? She gave me a pointed look. The Greens aren't the only powerful family with secrets. I thought of Howard's threat, the legal team that would bury me. What would you do? In my place? Diane refilled her coffee mug. I'd like to say I'd be brave, that I'd expose them. She sighed. But $3 million? That's generational wealth. That's freedom. Freedom bought with other women's pain, I said quietly. Yes. She met my eyes. And maybe your own healing. My phone buzzed again. Another text, but not from Howard. Catherine, it's Mia. A man came to our apartment looking for you. Expensive suit, total asshole vibes. Said he was a family friend. I didn't tell him anything, but I'm freaked out. Call me. Ice filled my veins. I have to go. Diane looked alarmed. What's wrong? They're watching my apartment. I showed her the text. I need somewhere to stay tonight. You can stay here, she offered immediately. Spare rooms made up? No. I gathered my coat. You've risked enough. I can't involve you further. At least take copies. Diane disappeared into another room, returning with a manila envelope. Everything I have. Use it however you need to. As I reached for the door, Diane grabbed my arm. Catherine, be careful. Men like Howard Green, they don't make offers like that unless they're truly scared of what you know. In the taxi, I stared at Diane's envelope, my mind racing. Howard had mentioned items in my possession. He knew about my insurance. What he didn't know was that my insurance had just been significantly upgraded. I couldn't go home, couldn't risk leading them to Diane. I directed the driver to a hotel downtown, paying cash for the room. Once safely inside, I spread out the contents of both envelopes. My evidence and Diane's. 4 women, 4 lives derailed by the same man, and 1 wedding that would merge 2 family empires, all contingent on Paul's pristine reputation. I wondered about the Watkins girl. Did she know who she was really marrying? Did she care? Money often married money without concern for character. My phone rang. A blocked number. I answered without speaking. Ms. Winters. Howard's voice was tight. I don't appreciate games. We had an agreement to communicate. We have 18 hours remaining on your timeline, I replied evenly. I'm considering my options. Your options have narrowed considerably. His tone sent a chill through me. My associate visited your residence. Your roommate was uncooperative. Leave her out of this. Everyone is involved once you start making poor decisions. Howard's voice dropped. $3 million is generous. Don't mistake it for weakness. The call ended. I immediately tried Mia. No answer. My hands shook as I texted her. Are you okay? I'm sorry about the guy who came by. Please tell me you're safe. 3 minutes passed. 5, 10. No response. A knock at my hotel room door made me jump. Ms. Winters? A man's voice. Unfamiliar. Hotel security. We need to speak with you. I froze. Silent. Had they found me already? Ma'am, please open the door. There's been a complaint about noise. Impossible. I'd barely moved since entering the room. I approached the door cautiously, keeping the chain latched as I opened it a crack. A man in what looked like a hotel uniform stood outside. There must be a mistake, I said. I haven't made any noise. The man's expression remained neutral. We need to verify your identity. Hotel policy. Something felt wrong. I started to close the door. I'll call the front desk. His foot wedged in the doorway. That won't be necessary. Adrenaline surged. I slammed my body against the door, crushing his foot momentarily. He yelped, withdrawing just enough for me to slam the door shut and engage the deadbolt. You bitch! He hissed through the door. Open up or we'll use the master key. I grabbed the evidence, shoving it back into the envelopes. My phone, my purse. The bathroom window was small, but might be big enough. I perched on the edge of the tub and tried to pry it open, painted shut. The sound of a keycard in the door made me panic. I threw my weight against the bathroom door, engaging its flimsy lock, and searched frantically for a weapon. Nothing but tiny shampoo bottles and towels. My phone vibrated. Mia. I'm okay. At Jen's. Creepy guy wouldn't leave, so we both got out. Where are you? Relief washed over me, followed immediately by renewed terror as the hotel room door opened. Check the bathroom, a man's voice ordered. The bathroom doorknob jiggled. Ms. Winters? A different voice, slightly accented. This is unnecessary. We only want to talk. Then talk through the door, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. Mr. Green is concerned about your meeting with the nurse. Diane Rodriguez. He wants to ensure you understand the NDA covers all discussions about his son. They'd followed me to the hospital, had been tracking me all day. I understand perfectly, I called back. Now leave before I call the police. A laugh. With what evidence of wrongdoing? Were hotel security responding to a complaint? I needed a plan. Needed leverage. I pulled out my phone and started recording. Tell Howard I know about Melissa, I said clearly. And the others. I have all the evidence. If anything happens to me, it goes public immediately. Silence from the other side of the door. Ms. Winters? The voice finally responded, softer now. No one wishes you harm. Mr. Green simply wants to conclude our business. Then have him call off his dogs and meet me tomorrow as planned. I kept recording. And tell him the price just went up. Silence again. Then the sound of retreating footsteps. The hotel room door opened and closed. I waited 5 minutes before slowly opening the bathroom door. The room was empty. Still recording, I checked every possible hiding place. Under the bed, behind the curtains, inside the closet. Nothing. I grabbed my things and left immediately, heading for the emergency stairwell rather than the elevator. In the lobby, I scanned for faces watching me too closely. Impossible to tell. Out on the street, I hailed a cab, directing it to a 24-hour diner on the other side of town. I needed to think. Needed a plan that wouldn't get me or Mia hurt. $3 million suddenly seemed like a small price for silence. But it wouldn't stop with me. There would be more women. More NDAs. More lives shattered by a monster. Protected by wealth and power. I spent the night moving between all-night diners and hotel lobbies, never staying in one place long enough to be tracked. By morning, I had made my decision. At 9 a.m., I texted Howard, meeting needs to be at a public location. The Westbrook Hotel lobby, noon today. Howard replied immediately. The original location is perfectly suitable. Public or no deal, I responded. And I want the agreement revised. I've had legal counsel overnight. A lie, but a necessary one. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then reappeared. Very well. Noon. The Westbrook was upscale enough to impress but public enough to feel safe. I arrived early, selecting a table with good sightlines to all entrances and exits. I wore a recording device. Illegal in our state without two-party consent, but essential for my protection. Howard arrived precisely at noon, alone but radiating confidence. His bespoke suit and authoritative stride turned heads even in this wealthy establishment. Ms. Winters, he sat across from me, placing his briefcase on the chair beside him. I understand you've had second thoughts about our arrangement. Not second thoughts. Better information. I kept my voice level. I know about the others. All of them. Howard's expression didn't change, but a muscle twitched in his jaw. I'm not sure what you're implying. Melissa. The country club server from 8 months ago. The broken wrist. The orbital fracture. I leaned forward. Your son was already engaged when that happened. Now Howard's composure slipped, just slightly. He glanced around before responding. Allegations without proof are merely stories, Ms. Winters. I have the proof. Medical records, photographs, witness statements. I placed my phone on the table between us. And copies have been distributed to people I trust, with instructions to release everything if anything happens to me. Howard studied me, reassessing. What is it you want exactly? 10 million. Not 3. He almost laughed. Extortion doesn't become you. It's not extortion. It's the cost of collective silence. I'm negotiating for all of us. All of who, exactly? Every woman your son has hurt, and every woman he would hurt in the future. Howard's expression darkened. I'm not responsible for my son's alleged indiscretions. No? Who paid Melissa's family? Who covered up each incident? Who made the hospital records disappear? I kept my eyes locked on his. You built the cage that protects him. The waiter approached our table. Howard waved him away without looking. 10 million is outrageous. It's nothing to you. A rounding error in your quarterly earnings. I pulled out a document from my bag. The NDA Howard had prepared, now annotated with my changes. But I want more than money. Howard took the document, skimming my handwritten notes. His face paled slightly. This is unconscionable. No. What's unconscionable is allowing your son to continue hurting women. I pointed to the key additions. 5 million now, 5 in escrow. Released only if there are no more incidents for 10 years. Paul enters treatment. Real treatment, not some celebrity rehab. And he never contacts any of the women again. And if I refuse, then tonight at 8 p.m. every major news outlet receives evidence of Paul's violence against 4 women, including the most recent while engaged to Eliza Watkins. The Watkins family will pull out of the merger. Your company stock will plummet. I shrugged. Or you can buy 10 years of silence and a chance for your son to actually become a better man. Howard studied me with something almost like respect. You've thought this through. I've had 3 years to think about it. He made a small gesture with his hand. Only then did I notice 2 men in suits at the hotel bar, watching us. They turned away immediately. I need to make some calls, Howard said. You have 1 hour. I'll wait here. Howard gathered his briefcase. Catherine, you understand there's no going back after this. You'll be watched. The first sign of betrayal will result in everything being released immediately. I finished for him. Yes, I understand how mutually assured destruction works. For the first time, Howard smiled genuinely. You would have made an excellent addition to our family under different circumstances. No, I replied coldly. I wouldn't have survived your family. When Howard returned, he had a revised agreement prepared on his tablet. The amount, 10 million, structured exactly as I'd demanded. The treatment requirement intact. The protection extended to all 4 women. You'll need to provide the names, he said, to ensure the agreement covers them. I'll provide first names only with physical descriptions. You know who they are. He nodded, conceding the point. Electronic signature? He offered the tablet. Paper, I insisted. 3 copies, 1 for you, 1 for me, 1 for my attorney. Another lie. I had no attorney, but the 3rd copy would go to Diane, my insurance policy against Howard's betrayal. Howard made a call. 20 minutes later, a junior attorney arrived with printed contracts. I reviewed every page carefully, ignoring Howard's impatient sighs. Initial here and here, the attorney instructed, pointing to each section. Full signature on the final page. The agreement was dehumanizing in its clinical language. My trauma reduced to alleged incidents and claimed damages, but the provisions were clear. $10 million and mandatory treatment in exchange for silence. I signed my name, watching Howard do the same. The first transfer will process by end of day, Howard said, rising. I trust this concludes our business. I gathered my copy of the agreement. Almost. One last thing. I pulled out my phone, bringing up a messaging app. On the screen was a text conversation with Mia, the most recent message unsent. Send everything to the journalists. It's done. Howard's face darkened. What is this? Insurance. I held up the phone. 1 press of this button and everything goes public despite our agreement. You'll be able to sue me afterward, of course, but the damage will be done. We had a deal. We still do. I met his gaze steadily. This message will remain unsent as long as you keep your end of the bargain. But if anything happens to me or Mia or Diane or any of the women, if Paul hurts anyone else, my friend will know what to do. Howard's professional mask slipped completely. For a moment, I saw the rage beneath, the same rage I'd seen in Paul's eyes that night. You think you've won something here, he said quietly. But money like this, it changes people, corrupts them. In 5 years, You'll be no different from us. I stood up. That's where you're wrong, Howard. I'll never be like you because I'm using this money to make sure men like your son can't hurt women anymore. Meaning what exactly? Meaning half of this money is already allocated to a foundation for victims of domestic violence, legal support, housing, therapy. I smiled at his stunned expression. I'm keeping enough to live comfortably and pay for my own therapy. The rest goes to fixing the damage your family has done. Howard stared at me, speechless for perhaps the first time in his life. Goodbye, Howard. I sincerely hope we never meet again. The money arrived exactly as promised, $5 million transferred by end of day. I moved out of my apartment that week, bought a modest house in a quiet neighborhood, and began therapy with a trauma specialist. I never saw Paul again. According to the society pages, he married Eliza Watkins in a lavish ceremony covered by all the major publications. Their wedding photos showed a picture-perfect couple, his arm wrapped possessively around her waist. I couldn't help but notice her smile didn't reach her eyes. 6 months later, I launched the Phoenix Foundation with help from legal experts in domestic violence. We provided services Howard Green's millions could never have imagined paying for. Everything from emergency housing to legal representation for women trapped in NDAs, similar to what I had signed. Diane joined the foundation's board. Her hospital records had mysteriously disappeared, but she brought her expertise and quiet determination to our work. I kept tabs on Paul indirectly. He completed a 90-day treatment program as required, though I had my doubts about its effectiveness. The money in escrow remained untouched, waiting for either his reform or his inevitable backslide. 3 years after signing the NDA, I received an unexpected visitor at the foundation's offices. The receptionist looked uncomfortable as she announced, "There's an Eliza Green here to see you. No appointment." My heart raced as I opened my office door. Eliza was thinner than in her wedding photos, expensively dressed but with the hollow look I recognized too well. "You're Catherine," she said simply. I nodded, inviting her in. She sat rigidly in the visitor's chair. "I found your foundation while researching." She paused. "Resources. I understand." I kept my voice gentle. "Would you like some water? Tea?" She shook her head. "I need to know if it's true, what they paid you for." I chose my words carefully, mindful of the NDA. "I can't discuss the specific terms of any agreements I may have signed. I'm not asking for details." Her hands trembled slightly. "Just, is he dangerous?" The question hung between us. Legally, I couldn't answer without violating the NDA, but morally, how could I not? "The foundation has resources," I said finally, "for women in situations where they feel unsafe, even women married to powerful men." Our eyes met, understanding passing between us. Slowly, she rolled up her sleeve. The bruises were fading, but unmistakable. "Can you help me?" she whispered. 3 days later, Eliza disappeared from their penthouse while Paul was at a business conference. No warning, no note, just gone, along with select personal belongings. The Phoenix Foundation arranged everything. New identity, new location, legal counsel to handle the inevitable divorce. Howard's investigators tried to connect her disappearance to me but found nothing. The foundation's work was carefully structured to protect both our clients and ourselves. 2 months after Eliza left, I received a plain envelope at my home address, a location that should have been impossible for the Greens to discover. Inside was a single photograph, me entering the foundation's building, taken with a telephoto lens. On the back, written in what I recognized as Howard's handwriting, "Remember our agreement." I wasn't intimidated. I'd learned to live with being watched, had accepted it as the cost of doing what was right. The final $5 million was released from escrow much earlier than the 10-year mark, not because Paul had reformed, but because he no longer needed the protection of silence. 6 years after I signed the NDA, Paul Green died of an apparent overdose in a hotel room in Singapore. The official story cited exhaustion and prescription medication. The unofficial story, whispered among those who knew the family, mentioned cocaine and a prostitute who had escaped with bruised ribs and a broken nose. Howard never contested the release of the remaining funds to the foundation. Perhaps in his own way, he was acknowledging what we both knew.